Hello, everyone. Welcome to Maude's Book Club. We are live at the moment talking, Morning Star. This is a wonderful book that we, as a book club, read back in July. That was a couple of months ago. I've literally read 20 books since then. So, Pierce had a busy schedule. He was doing a book tour all July and August. And then September, things happened. And now it's the end of October. I just ate a lolly. So I apologize. I've got off my teeth. I just wanted a hit of sugar before we go in. Now, hello. If you have joined us on the Patreon, then you've got access to the question sheet of all the questions that I'll be asking Pierce about Morningstar today. If you haven't joined Patreon, head over to patreon.com/Maude's Book Club. There's a few tiers. The first one gets you access to things like the doc, the book rec doc, the polls. Anytime we need questions answered, we turn to you. So get all of that. Also, the Discord opens up completely. There's a huge membership. There's a lot of things that we do there. You get a discount on the merch. There's a bunch of cool shit. If you get the $15 tier, you actually join in every book club in a video call, and we all hang out after every time we've done a show. And we have a merch tier. The merch is pretty cool. I've actually got someone today that's going to show us the mug. Pierce, are you there?
I am. Odd. It is empty currently, so it's just a prop. But
Maude's Book Club merch.
tastes twice as good coming out of this mug.
That's what they say. A big hello to you. Now, we've spoken about Red Rising and Golden Sun over the months. Now it's time to finish this trilogy. First question that I want to ask you, which one of the first trilogy was your favorite book to write?
I think the favorite was Golden Sun. Red Rising was written as like an article of faith. I didn't know I'd get published. Golden Sun was written right after I knew that Random House had purchased the entire trilogy. And so it was the first time I was working a bit more hand in hand with an editor. In terms of after I finished the first draft, I was able to send it over to the inimitable Mike Braff. And so
love Mike.
it's probably the most nostalgic of the books to write, because it was first time done during the first time I realized I could be a writer professionally. Yeah.
So you kind of like reflected on what you did with Golden Sun, and you like made it.
Well, as soon as I told my agent I quit my day job, she was like, "You shouldn't have done that." So I don't think I'd quite made it yet. But this dog smelled the hunt. I was on the hunt, and it really nostalgic time, because my office back then was in my bedroom. I was living with three other guys at the time, and it was just a very nostalgic time period for me, I guess.
Hold on. You were writing a book, living with three other
Mm.
guys, you said?
Yeah. Yeah, I just moved to LA. I had 3 roommates,
Mm-hmm.
and it was general chaos in that house.
I was going to say, how did you
And
get your peace and quiet happening?
I had noise canceling headphones, I'll have you know.
Good
Yeah.
hack. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I did that. And Golden Sun was also fun because it was the first time I got to really explore the world that I wanted to explore in Red Rising. Red Rising is the Red Rising world through a keyhole in many ways. You don't get to see all the aspects of Red Rising that I think make it so distinct. And so Golden Sun was my ability to, or gave me the ability to expand the world, include other spheres, other family factions, and really thrust Darrow into the heart of the story.
Yeah,
Which for me was always a space opera.
it cranks it up to the next
Yeah.
level, which I absolutely loved.
Yeah.
So it was cool to flex that. And then, of course, Morningstar meant you had to stick the landing. You had to tell the whole succinct story. It had to come to an end that made people thrilled to have read the books. How'd you find the pressure for that one? Did you have the ending or the big twist sort of mapped out before you even started the book? Or did it just come to you in your writing process of pantsing?
Yeah, it usually comes to me in the pantsing. I have always the general concept of what I want, and sometimes that'll change, but more or less stays the same throughout. I would say the twists happen when I see opportunity,
Mhm.
and then seem as though they're natural to the story upon rewriting. And so often it's me running into a situation where I feel as though the characters are in a pickle, or that the pacing of the book has slowed down, and so I need to insert or evolve the story a bit. And so it really is all writers rely on a sixth sense. sense of pacing. And for me, Morning Star was compiled mostly ad hoc, in the moment.
Oh,
There's certain elements of it, a book really finds its form in the third draft, I think. Second draft,
oh,
it's getting there, but it's really in the third draft that you start thinking you're not a complete fool.
got it.
First
It's all
draft,
coming together.
yeah, first draft you reread, you're like, oh boy, I'm a simple boy.
So you have to write a book 3 times for it to kind of fall into its best version.
I do. I'm sure much more intelligent people can write it in one go, but for me, it really is like layering paint. And first
Mm.
draft is me understanding the structure and the general plot points and the theaters of war, so to speak. The second one is far more focused on the action making, stringing not the action scenes, but the physical actions of the characters, making sure that the book actually feels like a book and has good pacing. And the third go through for me is usually focused on the characters, making sure there's circularity in their themes, making sure that there's connective tissue to the whole rest of the series, but also that they have an evolution within that book,
Mhm.
within the book you're in. So I like having a book that feels like a complete book on its own thematically and with regard to the character arcs, but also as part of a greater whole. And that's what I think the advantage of a series is being able to have all these things strung together to create something that feels bigger than any individual part.
I like that. A couple of comments coming through. Thank you so much to 123 Nudie, who's just subscribed using Prime. Hungry and Foolish. Thanks for the follow. Adam Vision resubbed for 36 months. That's gross. Sterling B is a first-time chatter. Says, haha, relatable, about something that you said earlier. And KP Dub says, okay, those roommates, who are they in the books?
No, the roommates don't make it into the books. There's really very few people from my life that make it into the books.
Do I know any?
Actually, no. No, you know Evan. You know Evan, right?
Who's
The
Evan?
Texas guy. Evan Holtzman?
Yeah, who is he in the book?
Yeah. Oh, he's not in the books. No, 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 no. But Evan lived with me during that time.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, yeah,
Zelda.
yeah.
Zelda's getting
Yeah.
very
He was
excited about
always
that.
he was always wandering around shirtless, showing off his really flawless physique. So he might be Apollonius, but he's not.
Oh,
So
okay.
no, I don't find that I crib anything from people in my life really. Um,
Oh.
I think that the only person was Severo, who was inspired by my childhood friend, but that's
Oh,
I
that's
think that
right.
might
You
be it.
told us that
Yeah,
story. Yeah.
that maniac Alex. Yeah.
Severo obviously goes through a lot in this particular book. I don't know if anyone's going to comment about it, but I would like to. I want to talk about some of the two main relationships that happen in Morning Star. This is when we kind of have some coupling up, some of the characters getting closer together. And I think that there is such a, I know Zelda was barking her head off. No idea. Maybe I got a parcel. How exciting.
Ooh.
There's almost a dichotomy between sort of Mustang and Darrow's relationship and Victor and Severo's relationship. And I took a very sharp turn into absolutely worshipping Severo and Victor's relationship because they realize that they're in the throes of war and that they'd rather do it together than do it alone. And it does come at sacrifice. With sacrifice. It does come with a sense of commitment. But the fact that we had a wedding in this book, spoilers, by the way, everyone, the fact that we had a wedding in this book was honestly my favorite part. And I was practically sobbing, and it was almost worrying to have such a beautiful moment in this book, knowing that your repertoire, your history is if something good happens, then something 10 times worse is just around the corner.
You don't trust me, Maude?
When it comes to your characters and what you're going to do to them, absolutely not. I
That's
believe
fair.
I've texted you numerous swear words.
You have. I've learned new
managed
ones, fortunately. Yeah.
The whole community sent a picture of us giving you the finger. That
Which I loved. I'll
uh,
frame that.
that was for Ragnar. That we'll go into as well. Have a conversation about that. Lisa says,
Yeah.
"I trust you. I trust you
I
to rip my
appreciate that,
heart
Lisa.
out."
Oh, she knows me.
Exactly. KB Dubs says, "Do we want to call them Citra or Vevro as they're shipping you?"
Vevro's good. Vevro's good.
I like
Yeah.
Vevro a lot, actually.
Yeah.
But I do want to talk about these sort of relationships. What was the drive behind sort of giving Severo a chance at love when his loyalty, blind loyalty to Darrow was almost all consuming. How did that sort of unfurl?
It's a great question. You know, the dichotomy between Darrow and Victra and Severo, I'm sorry, Darrow and Mustang and Victor and Severo, for me always was that Darrow and Virginia are very cautious, whereas Victor and Severo are not
Mm.
in love. And I think that that kind of almost like kamikaze approach to love is very fitting with their characters. And so, in understanding Severo, what I wanted, why the choice I made was one, to build for the next series, but also two, to how do I say, show that he is not simply devoted to Darrow,
Mm.
and to split his loyalty, so to speak, which is explored far more in the following series, and that added texture to him. And I think that the relationship really was not pre-planned until I saw them on the page together in Golden Sun. And I just thought that Victra, as a very wealthy, very beautiful, very strident woman, would always have the upper echelon of golds throwing themselves at her or trying to woo her.
Well, she wanted
And
Darrow
so,
initially.
yeah, but why she liked Darrow is because he wasn't trying to woo her. And I think that she senses a lack of artifice from Darrow and both Severo. And so the lack of artifice in Severo, the lack of pretense, he's, walking id. I think she was very much attracted to that because he shows you what he is very quickly
Hmm.
while still having a deep, you know, opaque world within. So he's complicated while also not hiding what he is.
Mm.
And so that attraction felt very natural to me.
And then, of course, you like, the opposite side of things with Darrow and Mustang. I mean, you had Darrow locked in a box for 9 months after being tortured. Mustang's always playing a game to keep one step ahead. It was usually family focused, but she's very, very strategic with what she's been doing. But we find
Mm.
out at the end of the book, another spoiler, we find out that she's with child this entire time. Why do you
Mm.
think that with all of these big kept secrets, that those two can't just have a fucking conversation?
I don't think that Virginia fundamentally trusted Darrow until the end of the book. I think in many ways she's learned to live a life holding her heart in reserve. She's been constantly disappointed by her family, constantly manipulated, as well as by Darrow. Think about when she fell in love with him. She fell in love with him under false pretenses. She fell in love with him with a lie being the primary how do I say it? She fell in love with a lie, and that lie
Yeah.
was central to the beginning of the relationship. Everything she knew about him. So I think in many ways that she was reticent to trust him, even when she got him back, until well past the point that she had no second thoughts about it. And from the Darrow perspective, um, yeah, he was living as a double agent for this. I mean, as a deep bed operative for this whole time. How could he put himself in a position to really trust Virginia? And I think in book three is really where they begin to trust one another,
Yeah, you
and you
see it.
begin to see how good they are when they can trust one another and when they don't hold themselves in reserve.
Mm.
And I think that echoes a lot of things I've seen in relationships. A relationship can never really flourish when someone or both parties hold themselves in reserve. And when one party is, the other party learns to. And that can be really deleterious to trust. And trust being the fundamental part of a relationship, there
Mm.
can't really be one. So trust had to be gained for those two characters throughout this book. And, once they're united by the sun, by Pax, that trust is marrow deep.
I got a question, a comment here from Vaden in the
Mm.
chat. He said, I mean, Darrow didn't fully trust Mustang. Him not confiding in the people he loved was a big issue with her and with Roke. Was that sort of Darrow's lesson to learn, that he
Mhm.
was so busy navigating sort of like the pieces of war that he expected or needed absolute trust from other people following him, but he actually wasn't able to lean into that trust himself?
I think so completely. I think that the most important thing in friendship or in a relationship is trusting and having enough respect for the other person to think that they believe that they can handle your truth. And Darrow didn't believe that the people in his life, like Virginia and Roke, could handle his truth.
Well, he
and
wasn't
that
he
created
wasn't
problems.
wrong in some
He wasn't
aspects.
wrong. No, he wasn't wrong.
It was
But in the same
surprising with Victor. Like Victor, sorry, I keep interrupting you.
no, no, it's okay. It's all right. It's your show.
So excited
Uh,
to talk about it.
yeah, but Victor, I think you have to look at the motivations of each character. Roke very much is a romantic who wants to believe that gold should shepherd mankind. Victor has seen and known enough to, kind of turn up her nose at the mantras, the patriotism, the bullshit spewed out by the government. She's an island. Roke's not an island. He has connective tissue all the way back to. I mean, for Victor has old family members too, but Roke really romanticizes his old family members and what they've done. And so Rokewood is impossible to trust. You couldn't trust Roke because in his heart of hearts, his allegiance is to the idea of the society. Whereas Victor's allegiance was primarily to herself. And then when she found people that saw her, that appreciated her, well, then her allegiance was to them. And Virginia, hard to tell what her allegiances were a lot of the time. What lengths would she go to protect her family? When Darrow encountered her on Luna, she was going to the lengths of cozying up with Cassius Albolona. So trusting her is fundamentally difficult. But that's the fun thing, is seeing how these characters' personalities don't change, but what they want or what their motivations are do change. And so making having Victra be fundamentally a person, like if I was in a dire strait, I'd want Victor to have my back, probably above anyone else in the cast, because she will do crazy immoral things that we as readers would be like, that's repulsive that she would do that, but she would have your back. Whereas Virginia, her morals perhaps would get in the way of having your back completely. Roke, his idea of the society would get in the way of him having your back completely, and his idea of right and wrong. Victor wouldn't care. She's loyal completely to the person, which I think is admirable, but also very dangerous.
Yeah, because if you side with the wrong person and everyone around you starts dying.
Or if you side with the right person and do horrible things, doesn't abdicate you from the moral guilt. Just means you may be a good friend, but a bad person.
And what's more important,
Yeah. And I love that. And I love that concept of someone can be a great friend and a bad person. Someone could be a terrible friend and a good person.
Where does Roke sit with that to you?
He, in his mind, based on his morality, he is a good person. And on a lot of types of morality, he's a good person who's a shit friend.
Yeah.
But in reality, if we're looking at the society for what it is, which is a fascist hierarchical regime, he believes in that. So fundamentally, he has to be a bad person, since that's the core of his beliefs. So even though he's very nice and lovely, and can behave moral or noble sometimes, he's doing it all for the wrong reasons. But I don't think it's black and white. I think it's shades of gray.
Not at all. That was the biggest heart rip for me. Well, there was a few of them throughout the book. Obviously the throwing book moment, which we will get into, and there's a couple of comments that are coming in with that moment. But because this is Maude's Book Club, if you're a book club member, you get to submit questions to the author. And so coming at you from Will P, here's your first question. How did you decide to make the series so graphic and brutal? Was it a conscious decision, or was it something that came naturally for you?
Probably both.
Did anyone try to tell you to tone it down? And if so, how did you evaluate that feedback? P.S. I met you at the LA event. I'm a huge fan.
Thanks for the question, man. Yeah, I got asked to tone it down every single time.
You did? What were some of the things that you were doing?
Let's not get into that. Point being, there's always been a response to the graphic nature of it. I think my favorite review I ever got was by Common Sense Media, which basically says my book is violent, borderlining on pornographic. I disagree with that statement personally. What I think sometimes happens is a lot of the books I've read don't tabulate, or how to say it. Fundamentally, I think that violence, when it is used in story, should be scary. I think violence should feel like it rends the fabric of civilization, which is what it does. I don't know if everyone here has seen a fight, how strange you feel afterwards. It's linked with humanity, since since our beginning, but at the same time, it's incredibly jarring. And what I want is for the violence used in the series to be incredibly jarring, to elicit that feeling that it's not all sunshines and roses.
Wh-
Uh, Point being, I see a lot. I see a lot of books or movies where there's a huge human toll, but you don't feel it at all. And I wanted people to be able to feel it because fundamentally these books are they make war very, very, very cool, but fundamentally there's an aspect to it that's anti-war,
Yeah.
and that has to do with really feeling the violation that comes with extreme violence. Another one of the things that always used to irritate me, and this is very much linked to it, is there's pretty much every Hollywood movie where the hero defeats the villain's on the ground beaten, and the hero's going to kill them, but then no, show their moral integrity by sparing the
Sparing
villain's
them.
life. And then they turn their back, and lo and behold, the villain has a knife in his boot, and he lunges up, and the hero has no choice but to turn around and kill him.
Hmm.
Why is that done? It's done to give the audience catharsis because everyone wants the villain to die. And then it's done that way as well to give the hero what I call moral abdication. It's Pontius Pilate washing his hands. So the audience gets the catharsis, the hero gets killed, the villain gets killed, and the hero has no real blood on his hands because he had to do it.
Mm.
And he also gets to show how he's morally superior because he's not going to kill a downed enemy. I wanted Darrow in certain situations to just shoot the downed enemy.
Yeah.
Because the whole point of killing is that you then take on that moral weight. That's why the passage exists, to take on the moral weight of knowing you ended a life.
Right.
And yeah, I just wanted my characters to wear the blood on their hands.
I feel like as well with Darrow, I mean, the start of this book really sets a path of trauma. This guy went through it. Like you talked about the use of violence. There's different types of torture that is used here. And I personally think that um, Darrow's gone through so much, and his constitution has just been tested at all limits. And one of the questions I was going to ask to the community as well as you, how long do you think you realistically would last in the box?
2 days, shit,
I
that
don't
would
reckon
be
you got two in you, dude.
horrible. Man, maybe not two. I need to
Mm,
move. The the box came about because I wanted something that was well, one, I don't think in my books I try not to show really scenes of torture as bad as it would go.
mhm.
Like in this world, I try to set up the rules and the darkness of this world outside of torture rooms because torture rooms, like if I was really showing what they did in torture rooms in Red Rising, I wouldn't want to write that. I feel
Yeah.
like then it would be like torture porn. And I don't feel like that's particularly interesting to me. Nor do I really like reading it or consuming it, like movies like Hostel and things like that. I
I
don't
won't
like
watch
that.
them. Yeah.
So a lot of the violence and stuff is to set up the stakes of when someone is captured. So you believe, even if it's not on the page, the scary world they live in, bad stuff's happening to them. And so the box was my way of like, all right, I don't want to show the jackal actually torturing Darrow. I wanted something that. So then I stumbled on the concept of like, okay, what is Darrow? Darrow is movement. That's integral to his character, always has been, velocity. So what's a way to torture him by giving him the inverse of what he is,
Mm.
stasis, and make sure he can't move. And what's the worst thing for a guy that's a hell diver? Can't move, can't affect anything, doesn't know what's going on, and no interaction with anyone. And so it's just the perfect inverse of his character. Because there's also this the Nietzschean concept of hell, which is eternal consciousness but no body,
Yeah. Right. And
which
that's what
would be
his.
yeah, which was what he had.
Yeah. All right. And yeah, obviously that shaped him and his decisions, and his
Yeah.
attitude towards sort of
Hmm.
the doing what's necessary, as awful as it is. Will said, that makes a ton of sense. And one of the things that I really love about your writing, thanks for such a thoughtful answer.
Yeah, thanks for the
Oh,
question.
Catch 22's got one. This book felt much more cinematic than the previous two, so much so that I mentally started fan scoring as opposed to fan casting
I've
different
never heard of that.
moments and characters as I read. I know that you've mentioned before that you don't write while listening to music, but this book was more was this book more cinematic by design, or am I just a crazy person who listens to too much music? Again, thanks again for signing my book in Seattle.
Well, clearly you are a crazy person because you came to my signing in Seattle. But I would say that it was more cinematic, possibly intentionally at the time. Hard to go back into my head. I think it was more cinematic because we were getting to see the world in greater scope, but we are also feeling the call to rebellion. And in Golden Sun, in many ways, is a spy thriller, whereas Morning Star is an epic rebellion, and so the Darrow being in the public eye, Darrow giving speeches, the rising individuals rising up on Phobos. These are all moments of a society awakening. And so I think that in its bones, it is, in terms of theme and in terms of place in the series, it is very natural to feel more cinematic.
You can hear like the cheering and roaring of
Hmm.
everyone's.
And there are times, even though I don't write the best to music, I will write certain sections to music. Usually, I'll put one or two songs on repeat. So, for instance,
Ew.
hey, she come in? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, there she
Good
is. Hey,
stretch.
baby.
Good stretch of a girl. Oh.
She's like, "What are you doing?" Hi, baby. What you need? So yes, there are some sections which I still listen to music to get right, particularly some of the more cinematic ones. I find that listening to music overall can accidentally make everything cinematic, and that's, you know, not all the time what you need.
Tim says, I literally have a playlist for this book.
Fantastic.
You love that hype. Vaden's got a few questions here. We've got one. Redemption is a big theme as Darrow converts many potential enemies into allies for the Rising. He needs the help of other golds to bring down the society. But if Darrow did not, would he still try so hard to find the good in others? In our real world, should we?
I think we should always be open to it. I think we can seek the good in others up to a point. I don't necessarily think. I think that there is something to it that believing that people can change. Is needy.
I can hear her. Her little fox noises.
Yeah, there we go. Um, so what was I saying? I think it's fundamentally part of Darrow's character, and I think back in the day, this book was described to me as Red Rising was described to me as a revenge book, and I fervently disagreed with it because the whole concept of the series is that revenge is not enough, and that you have to be willing to be open to believe that others can change. Darrow's whole thing is providing an example of how you can change or how you can do something different, and providing a path for others to follow. So for me, if there's a takeaway to this series, that, or if there's some takeaways, I think that's one of them, is trying to find the good in people. Particularly in our climate, we're up in arms very quickly against one another if one opinion challenges our opinion. I think that's because our opinions get linked very closely to our sense of self, our ego, and so if someone challenges an opinion, it feels like an attack on you personally.
Yeah.
But I think in Darrow's world, where it's colors, it's the same thing. There's a reason. I mean, Victor, if she was just being simple-minded, would think that if Darrow wants to attack Gold, that means she's his enemy. Yet she's able to differentiate the difference between, what she was born into and what she really wants out of life, and what Darrow does, and decide for herself.
Exit says R.I.P. Tactus. With all of that.
He had a shot.
But it was at the very end he was getting the redemption.
I know, enough. Too late, too soon. Not enough. No.
I've got another one.
Yeah, go ahead.
No. I was going to move on to the next question, so you get it out now.
Perfect. Well, I think that we often forget that how affecting trauma can be in shaping people, and almost everyone I know has had something bad happen to them in the past, or even if they haven't had any bad happen to them, their problems are usually a response mechanism or a response to some situation in their past. And so we all carry these little secrets or wounds within us. And I think that more so than looking for the good in people, it's recognizing that a lot of people operate in response to those wounds. And it's just like Tactus having those shit brothers. Tactus, if he'd been grown up in a different household, would be a very different person. So I think that the leaving open the possibility for change is leaving open the possibility that someone can work on themselves and counter those demons, which I fervently believe in.
I like that.
It's a dog fest.
Well, I mean, I figure if Eo's going to be there, then Zelle's coming up as well. Oh, I had to bribe her though, with love. I've got one more here from
the
besties. Hi. What have you got all over you, my darling? We've got another one here. The people in Red Rising are so nuanced and change in dramatic ways when dealing with the epic events of the series. What is your, we kind of touched upon this. What is your process and or inspiration for creating such complex characters? We talked about sort of how the character arc comes about, usually in the third draft. But yeah, how do you get such nuanced characters and give them
One, I create characters more based off of tone than like Stephen King will give characters really dense backstories as well as very specific likes and dislikes and habits and things like that. I'm more of a tonal writer in terms of I feel the tone of the character and then I explore it. Usually, I think that shearing forces are what make a character. They want one thing, but something holds them back. They do one thing, but it's contrary to their personality, and so it's the friction inside that makes a character interesting.
How would you relate to that? Do you feel like you've had life? Oh my God, EO. Do you feel like you've had life experiences of things that are holding you back, and that's actually made you bigger, better? Yeah.
I think we all do. I think we all do, and I think that how we respond to those things is what either promotes growth or torpor. A lot of times when I'm in my lowest state, I feel like things are happening to me. I feel like life is happening to me. But when I'm in my higher state, then I feel like I am actually exploring life and taking advantage of it. And things aren't happening to me. Things are happening, and I get to choose how I respond.
We just had that conversation.
Yeah, we did. And I think that for the characters, for instance, Darrow is a person that all he really wants is to not be his father who died for a cause or died, for a mine strike, and left his family, or left his kids and his without a father and his wife without a husband. And so Darrow wanted to be the opposite of that, even to the point that he was willing to swallow the lie without questioning it. And so Darrow wanted to be a father and he wanted to be a husband. And when that was no longer an option, then he had to do something that wasn't something he wanted to do ever. So his entire purpose is to do something he doesn't want to do. And that's part of why Pax is given to him in the end as a reward for staying the course.
Okay. I've got another question here. Again, Vaden. The main focus in the first trilogy is on the reds, golds, and obsidians. Do future books explore more of the other colors or people with mixed heritages like Severo?
There is some exploration of characters with mixed heritages. But for the most part, the story still centers around the conflict. Story picks up 10 years later, and this time through, it's not just Darrow's point of view. There's three characters who have reasons to dislike Darrow quite a bit. And so all three POVs besides Darrow are individuals that have a grudge against Darrow. And so with that, you get to explore some of the other colors and you get to explore more of the Red Rising world. Because the problem with Darrow is he's a 7-foot-tall killing machine. You can't really go undercover except as a gold or as an obsidian, which bars him from really encountering the Red Rising world outside of a certain context. A guy goes into a bar that's 7 feet tall, a little suspicious. So with these other characters, one a gray, one a red, another a gold, you get to see different aspects of the world that Darrow wouldn't be able to see.
Because you were saying that when you were writing Morningstar, you were developing the relationships between Darrow Mustang, Severo, and Victor because you had already decided that there was more books coming into the series. When did you get the green light to continue writing more? And how did you know what that was going to look like when developing the relationships in Morningstar?
It was in either the first or midway through the first or second drafts, I knew that the story had to go on because there was more I wanted to explore within the world. And so I think that the suspicion was always there that 3 books wasn't enough, but it really became concrete in about 2015. I think it was 2015 when I was writing Morningstar. In terms of the characters, in terms of sowing, it's more so sowing the seeds. You want seeds that can grow to fruition in the later books. And so some of the dynamics were set up to promote that.
I love it. The chat's going off going, yay, it's our next read. Some people have already started it. It's other people's first time reading this one. So if you haven't bought it yet, November it's our Iron month. We're going to be doing Iron Gold and Iron Flame.
Yeah. So, sorry, I didn't mean to step on your toes.
No, no.
Sorry. The part of the reason, it's part of the funny thing is the initial trilogy. I made it a trilogy because I know a lot of people that don't start book series that aren't complete,
Yes.
and so I wanted the trilogy to be complete and then to go on to the next three. Unfortunately, it's confused people along the way. They think they're like different series. In my mind, these books, when they're all done, will be a 7-book series.
Got it.
So there's 3 books out in the next Red Rising series, but it'll be a 7-book series. The same characters, same plot lines, same themes, and the same growth that we're seeing for the same characters throughout. So it's one big conflict. Um, have you? Yeah, Mar, where are you technically? Are you in Dark
Halfway
Age?
through Dark Ages, yeah. Dark
Yeah.
Age.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so book 4, sorry, the first trilogy is about an archetypal rebellion, and then the next series is about challenging the moral rectitude of that rebellion and seeing whether or not it can stay around, whether or not its own theories and its own philosophies can survive pressure, lots of pressure,
And getting older.
and getting older. Yep.
As long as there's more sexy time in there, I'll be happy. Catch22 has a question. I have gotten many friends and siblings hooked into this series. One in particular cruised through all 6 books that are out so far in about a month and a half. She wants me to ask you to hurry up with Red God. She doesn't want to wait to finish the series. I told her I'd ask, but honestly, take your time and give us the best you've got. Tim.
I will. Thank you for reading Catch-22. I will do my darndest to make sure it doesn't take too long, but I'm gonna do it right first. Then I'll go fast.
Yeah. I like that. Okay, we got one from KP Dubs here. It says, Darrow was tortured by spending 9 months alone in a cramped box before escaping. At the very end, we find out that during nearly that same time period, his child is in Mustang's womb for 9 months. Was this parallel something that you'd planned from the start or something that sort of hit you along the way?
That hit me along the way in terms of the time frame. The reason that the jackal kept him in there is it says, it takes this long to make a man, to make a baby. It takes this long to unmake him. So the jackal was being, ironic there, and the timelines happen to match up. But it's the metaphor, the allegory was definitely accidental. And when I found out afterwards, I was just delighted.
Oh, okay. You found out
There's a lot of things like that where like maybe you're reading it on the third pass through and you're like, wow, I look pretty smart here.
Oh,
But
okay.
a lot of times it's accidental, yeah.
All
Or
right.
it's a crime of opportunity.
Okay. ST Wangin Bangin says, what was your finishing the skyscraper moment? What scene after writing it made you think, oh, this is all coming together?
I mean, definitely Darrow seeing Pax on the beach. It was a payoff in so many different ways. It was a secret that was hidden for like a long time. And yeah, there's certain moments that really do tie a book together. That was one of them in the book. Also, another moment was in book 2, Golden Sun, was the gala scene with Cassius and his family and Darrow's duel. They really tied the book together. And then also the council scene where Romulus Au-Ra and Roke and Darrow are talking, and both are petitioning him to join them. Because I'm like, when I started realizing how much each of them had to say and how fun the dialogue was in that scene, I was like, oh shit, I've created a real dynamic here. So those are some of the scenes, yeah.
And seeing Roke flip. We've never seen that side of him, and that's when you're like, uh-oh. That
exactly.
His villain arc has just beep.
Well, because he's in House Mars for a reason, and you're never really told what the reason is, and you're like, oh shit, this guy would do a genocide if he thought he had to.
That was always a really cool dangled carrot, actually, because Roke was so soft in that sense where he loved first, and he lost so much. But it's that thing where it's like everyone he loved died, and so it was creating.
And forget, he went through the passage too. He beat a kid to death too. All these characters did.
Oof. I keep forgetting. Blood on everyone's hands. We've got a question here from Exit 9 Dope Boy. Was it satisfying killing off the jackal as it was for me to read it, or is no death satisfying for you?
The most satisfying thing was pulling out his tongue. the death of the jackal was intentionally written in passing tones. The important thing was for me, the pulling out of the tongue, because it was the same irony by which we met the jackal. You know, him cutting off the hand, saying this instrument means nothing to me.
Mm,
And then then Daryl learned and showed that he learned and took the instrument that meant everything. And so then after that, for me, he was done as a character.
mm,
So you know that was satisfying, mostly because I thought, honestly, I was like, I think I stuck the landing.
mhm.
And then the passing tones of Virginia pulling his feet almost feels anticlimactic, which is also what I wanted because the jackal has no place in this new world they're trying to make.
Mm. That I kind of saw it as well as like it's a bookend. How we started the beginning of the book with EO, you know, and
Oh yeah, well said. Yeah, that was accidental as well.
hey, oh, okay.
Well, it was consequential because I did consider no one pulling his feet, and that shows the difference between him and Neo. But
Mm,
Virginia showing pulling his feet felt too appropriate. But as for bookends, that's pretty good. Yeah,
yeah,
great
yeah.
little accident. Oh, look at that.
I pay
I
attention.
probably thought about that back then. You know, yeah,
Um,
smart guy like me for sure.
but I also think it was a really good setup for the next few books because we understand that Mustang is now sovereign and compassion was
Yeah.
something that we hadn't quite had in previous rulings. It was,
Mhm,
you know, you kill the previous ruler and then you step into their place. And so it's
mhm.
bloodshed, it's strategy, it's, you know, it lacked so much compassion. And I think that for me was like, all right, well, what does this world look like if someone does lead with compassion? How different is it? Or is it even a possibility? Because there is that trope of you need to weaponize fear for people to listen to you and to rule. There needs to be a balance. You can't be all great because you'll be walked over. Especially that's how the golds have established themselves. It's through fear, it's through cunning.
Mhm.
So I guess what I'm trying to say is, is that a big premise of the next sort of 4 books? Is it the
It
difference of ruling?
certainly is.
Okay,
It
good.
certainly is. And you know, when you're in a democracy or you're in democracy is inherently more chaotic. Democracy is not the perfect form of government. It is the best available form of government.
Mm.
Uh, Government. I mean, the best government that would exist is a benevolent dictator. We just can't get one.
Too much power.
Mm.
Unlimited power. I got a few
Hmm.
questions here. Oh, okay. Victor falling for Severo and them getting married is the happiest that I've been reading this book. Why was their
Oh,
matrimony so important?
I am always attracted to the moments of peace and war, like the little moments of beauty. And I really did debate killing Victor
What the
in the end of this
fuck?
book. Yeah, I really did
Why? Why?
because I
What's
like
wrong with you?
stepping on hearts, and then I thought, no, that's a little exploitative, so I didn't do it because it didn't pass the acid test, so to speak.
What's the acid test?
Well, the acid test being like, am I doing this for shock value or just for pain, or is there actually a thematic reason to it? Yeah, so it seemed kind of just abusive for no reason.
Okay, well, Robin says, do you just debate on killing every single one of your characters? Is there that internal debate that you have?
There is, yes.
I mean, everyone got super mad at Ragnar. That one was really hard for me, and we had a
Yeah.
conversation about that, and you were just like, on paper, it wrote itself. Statistically,
Yeah.
she's just too good. And as we discovered at the end of this book, it was 3 incredibly skilled warriors that took her down. It needed 3 of
Hmm.
them. Oh, and then
Well,
Vayne
you
says,
know,
cough packs.
yeah, yeah. With Aja, you know, you can't warn. It's kind of like watching Star Wars sometimes. You know, all these villains are supposed to be so dangerous a lot of times, and very few people die. You know, stormtroopers, for instance, have they ever killed anyone? And I think the menace of them and the believability of the world kind of goes out if I say Aja's a badass, and then gets she doesn't. She's not a badass. And so Ragnar, that one hurt me. I still have people coming up in line to me who read it in 2016 and saying that that one still stings. So
Why
I
does
think
okay?
the important thing is Ragnar's legacy.
What, real quick,
Hmm.
why is the only option live or die? Could he not have been maimed? Could
Hmm.
he, you know,
You
could
know, Do you know how many people's arms got cut off and legs I've cut off? I've cut off like everyone's limbs. You run out of body parts to cut off.
I guess that's what happens when you've got sort of this weapon
Uh-huh.
here.
That's
And
right.
the
Yeah.
Catch 22 said, dude, you robbed us of Uncle Ragnar.
I know.
Uh,
And I still think about it. I still think about it.
Next question. What is your favorite quote of the book? Do you have one?
Oh gosh.
Just to kind of plant a seed and
What's
remind you of
yours?
what happens. The whole Darrow with the calling for Iron Rain. Ooh,
Ooh, gosh. It might be Trig saying Ares sends his regards, motherfucker.
Oh, yeah, that was good.
Yeah.
Oh, whoops. That was a chef kiss moment.
Or like, yeah, or nut to butt, don't be shy. I just thought that was funny. Or Darrow saying, we keep looking for the light, but we are the light and we're spreading.
Oh, I like that. I like that. I'm reading Stephen King's fairy tale at the moment, and he has coined us with don't strain your pooper. And that's just getting me through every single day. I love that one.
Yeah.
Have you read any fan fiction of your books?
I have not.
Is there a reason why?
I'm not like, I try not to go into those spaces on the internet. I don't think it's very healthy one way or the other. I used to read reviews early on in the series and kind of like lurk on Reddit and things like that. And I didn't find it very mentally healthy. I don't know.
Yeah.
It makes you second guess things. It makes you get annoyed at people's, it makes you get annoyed. It makes you then like, get a little too big for your britches. So I try to stay away from that stuff.
I read a fan fiction. Oh, yes.
However, if you read a fan fiction that's great, send it on to me.
Okay. All right.
I'm just not out there acquiring it.
Got it. So you don't want to troll through the shit to get the gold nuggets. So if I go mining for you, okay.
Well, if any of your people want to go mining and find interesting stuff, then I would definitely read it. The problem, I think, is so much of my life is Red Rising or trying to come up with it come up with the books and write and try to keep the characters straight. That the last thing I should be wanting to do is put more of my life like passively into consuming Red Rising stuff. I think that can reach a point of oversaturation as the author. I have to be ignorant of certain things.
Okay, keep it fresh in your mind and not be.
Yeah, exactly. And also,
okay.
keep it novel, and want to get back into it and be like, my world,
Okay, we're gonna try and find an Uncle Ragnar fanfic. Okay.
Yeah, do Uncle Ragnar and maybe a Devro or a Cassius Cassius Darrow one would be interesting. I hear there's some interesting stuff out there.
There are people shipping the Cassius.
I'll light a candle. I'll light a candle, get a big glass of wine, and I'll read it.
Okay.
I'll edit it
and then send it back redlined. I love it.
Yeah.
Yes, we have one of our slogans here at Maude's Book Club is just let them smooch. Those guys downed a little bit of whiskey together.
I mean, I think it would take a little more than whiskey, but there's definitely some vibes there.
I mean, Cassius is my main. I've loved him from the get-go. I think he's so wonderful. And of course, the book throwing moment that I had, I felt so betrayed. Like I honestly did. Yeah, I was really upset. And in fact, when I was continuing to read, and I don't want to spoil anything, it's gotten to the point where if like, yeah, I want to protect him at all costs, basically. And there's a clip that I've made. I'll let you fix your light.
My lighting situation is a little shit. I switched my desk around because I'm starting up the new book again, and I'm like, I need a different view.
Yeah.
So now my back's to the door, so I feel very exposed. But I also haven't set up my lighting properly.
That's okay.
Thanks for bearing with me.
That's right. There's just a clip of there was a clip that we've put out. You weren't privy to that conversation, but basically me having an infatuation with a fictional character.
Oh, and
all thanks to his little butt chin and his Superman.
Chin,
yeah, Superman.
Yeah, he's definitely cutting your type.
Okay, confession, everyone. There's a little confessional happening. Who's your crush? Which character are you crushing on? I know for a fact that Tim is very much a Mustang guy.
I understand.
Sterling says Severo, boyo. Yeah, we've all got a little bit of a crush.
Yeah,
Yours is
I'm
Victra.
definitely Victra.
Mm. Baden says closest is Mustang. Mustang. Will Poss says Victra. I love all that. Cool. Bless you. Take Aja out of the equation since we already know the answer. Who is the best duelist in the original trilogy, including Lorne? Lorne Arcus.
Lauren and Aja, if they fought, they'd probably kill each other. Wow. They're both so good. Yeah, they're both so good. Because I mean, to kill someone, your blade has to go into them, and when your blade's in them, it's not on the other person's blade, and the other person. I just think that if they fought, they'd kill each other. There's no way.
Got it. They'd do the same move at the same time, and
something like that. Yeah,
that's actually quite poetic. That's beautiful. There is a couple of pop culture references that are hidden throughout the books in the trilogy. Yeah. This one touches upon a bit of a By Felicia moment.
Mm-hmm.
Is that something that you kind of consciously put in there, or did it just fall into place?
I love the movie Friday.
Yeah.
It was like one of the first R-rated movies I got to see when I was a kid. So like seeing Friday, it was like you tell your friends and like you have the VHS and then you go over and watch it and you feel so cool. So I always had the love of Friday, and so does my editor Mike Braff. And I had By Felicity in there, and he just said, I remember his note. He just says, "Don't half-ass it, go all in," and change it to Felicia. So I kept it.
Okay, all right.
Yeah. And that's one of the moments I had to get off Reddit back in like 2015 or 2016 or something. Someone's like, "It totally pulled me out of the story and made me question his world."
Oh, I loved it.
Yeah, I'm like, all right, I got to get out of here.
I ate it up because there was also a Han Solo reference in there as well.
Yeah. It's also funny. It's also funny because there's intentional references, and then there's times where you just write something that sounds right to you, but you're not trying to reference anything. For instance, there's a Good Will Hunting moment. It's not your fault. I didn't mean to put that. I didn't mean that to be a reference to Good Will Hunting.
Oh, I didn't.
But it just sounded like like something someone would say to someone. And I like the movie Good Will Hunting, but it wasn't like intentionally put in for that. So it's difficult sometimes. A lot of times I'll get people asking, "Was this?" I love your reference to episode 9, season 3 of Star Trek, and I'm like, "What?"
I haven't even seen that.
Yeah, that's like news to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I've done that before. People are like, "Oh, you great quote about this," and I'm like.
Yeah, I mean, it's like the thing is, I think that everything you consume gets put into a common pot within you, and a lot of times you'll remember where it came from. Sometimes you don't, and sometimes you think you came up with the idea, and then you're like, "Oh shit, it felt right because you'd seen it somewhere before," you know.
And it lives in your subconscious, and boom.
Yep, boom.
In the moment. The twist. Let's talk about this twist.
Twist.
Usually, I mean, there have been big twists all throughout the trilogy that we are talking about thus far, and obviously having to one-up yourself. Now, the difficult thing here, and that really fooled us, the audience, is that we are watching things unfold through a first-person view with Darrow. And because he's in on it, you had to write it in a way where us, the reader, were not privy to the plan at play. How was that to kind of like have a twist, but have the first person almost have the potential to unravel the moment and trying to trick an audience whilst Darrow is clued in on the
so action? My editor, it's a great question. My editor and I were very, very, very focused on not lying to the reader, but also tricking the reader. So Darrow's internal monologue is, we spent a lot of time trying to get it right so that upon rereading, it wouldn't feel like a lie. It would feel like him doing method acting, basically. Right. Because it is extremely tricky. It's actually what makes it very difficult to do first-person present tense. First-person past tense, you can lie to the reader. You can say, like, name of the wind. Name of the wind lies to the reader a lot. And that's
your unreliable narrator.
But an unreliable narrator is easy to do, or you can do it very well in first person past tense. First person present tense, extremely difficult. And so you try to look at it as like we try to look at it as like perception. And so not to a point where we're outwardly lying, but to a point where it feels like he's trying to like act his way through it. and having the real emotional reactions to it, because I think it is horrifying to see Severo get popped in the chest 6 times, and really horrifying. And so we also, if you notice, Darrow's internal monologue also constricts quite a bit. He's not reflecting on things during that section. It's much more action item oriented. It's much more what's happening physically, and then one little pop back with an internal thought. But in terms of the way Darrow usually thinks, it's much less focused on the internal logic. A lot of times he'll explain what's going on or explain his reaction. He doesn't much in that. It's very, very forward.
Yes.
And we had to do it very, very fast. It's a very quick scene. And then all of a sudden you're dealing with the Sovereign, you're dealing with Cassius, you're dealing with all these things. And so you're distracted as the reader.
Well, you're wounded. There is emotional damage.
You're wounded, but you're also distracted. And that distraction is necessary, because otherwise you can't keep that up for that long of a time period.
How did you figure out that twist? How did that come about? Because it's brilliant.
What I wanted to do was to put Cassius in a situation, because we've had characters where Darrow has decided to trust them, and it panned out. We've also had it happen the other way. And so it was the final litmus test for Cassius. Was he going to be worthy of Darrow's trust? And having seen Darrow be stupid before and seeing him make the wrong bets on people, the audience knew that, the readers know that he can go that direction. He can be wrong. And so what I wanted was people to be rooting for Cassius to make the wrong choice. And then when he did seem to make the wrong choice, be emotionally let down, and to feel like, oh, I believed in you, and to feel that betrayal from him. And I thought that the best way of capitalizing on that would be with having him kill the most beloved character. And so it was really working Cassius's redemption arc. Darrow, the frustration at Darrow, or hope that Darrow, like, don't fuck up again, don't trust the wrong person again arc.
Yeah.
In with then Severo dying. So it was perfect chance to create calamity in the reader's minds, I thought. Particularly that close to the end of the book, someone else is going to die.
Yeah.
And so when Severo dies, no one else can die. It has to be Severo, so it has to be true. And Pierce is bloodthirsty, so of course he's dead.
Do you wear that with the badge of honor? The fact that
I use it as a tool.
Okay.
And that's how, and that for instance is what's helped sell that moment. Yeah.
Okay. Hungry and Foolish says, well, you nailed it, and I felt exactly that way. Ha ha.
Nervous laughter.
Yeah. Vaden says Pierce is the real Reaper, just like Darrow uses that moniker.
Thank you.
Aw. What has been some of the best and worst reactions and responses that you have personally received from Morningstar?
I have had a book thrown at my head because
Who did
of
that?
Severo's name. A girl in Phoenix Comic-Con 2016 was reading it in line and threw the book at my head, and then like ran away crying, and then came back about 30 minutes later saying like her friend or sister gave her book and told her to read on, and then she read on and was like just sobbing with joy that Severo was alive.
Wow. Did she hit you? Did it connect?
No, I dodged that.
Oh,
Well, it wasn't a great throw either. It really wasn't a great throw.
Well, yeah, she was just
She was
distressed.
distraught.
Yeah.
She was distraught.
Oh my goodness. What's the best response that you've gotten from it?
Probably someone naming their kid Trig.
Really?
Cool. Yeah.
I mean, you named your dog Eo. Are there other pets that?
Yeah,
have
but but Trig was only in this book, There's been Darrow's, there's been Darrow's, Victora's, Virginia's, a couple Severos actually. Yeah, and I think that Trig.
I'm sorry. People were naming their children Severo.
Mm-hmm.
People have named their children Severo.
One of my actually strangest but nicest interactions with a fan was up in Pebble Beach, and I was getting coffee with my friend, and his kid comes up to me and asks, he recognized EO, he didn't recognize me. He said, "Are you Pierce Brown?" I said, "Yeah," and he says, "I love your books." And I asked him what his name was, and he said his name was Severo, and I didn't believe him. And he then shows me his ID, and he says he literally changed his name a week ago, legally changed his name to Severo. So that was a really nice one. So yeah, there are Severos out there.
Wow. I like Victra as a name, actually.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful.
I could have a daughter, Victra, quite easily, I think.
Yeah, and it comes it's very close to Vitri, which is victory in Latin.
Yeah, my daughter's gonna be a winner. Anyway, if you have another dog, what name?
Haven't thought of it. Probably Muffin.
What the?
Maybe Waffles.
Waffles. Okay.
Waffles.
Okay.
I was looking at golden doodles before I got EO, and then I was gonna get a golden doodle named Waffles, and then EO came into my life, and I was like, oh, no more golden doodle.
And it was love at first sight.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a Muffin from Bluey, I've been told by Robin, who watches the show just recreationally.
Oh.
Yeah. That's how good Australian shows are. It's set in Brisbane, where I'm from.
Oh, you're lovely. I'll pretend I know where that is.
I know. I was just like, you're making it real good. You're like, oh, great. Thank you. Last question. We were talking about pop culture references. Also want to point out the awesome Star Wars reference in naming a chapter Cell 2187.
Yeah, someone caught it. Yeah.
Does that one fly under the radar?
Yeah, usually. There's some that I put in there, and I won't hear back from people for until years and years later. It's really fun. That Cell one was, I feel like people didn't spot that as much as some of the others.
Last question, it just came to me because we're talking about naming children, dogs, animals. I have argued that a gold character called Maude makes absolute sense because AU is in the name. Can we get a gold?
Oh man,
called Maude? This is the last book. This is the last chance. It does make sense, not only because I am tall, blonde with blue eyes and could be gold, but the name Maude has AU in it. Gold.
It does indeed. It does indeed.
It's quite an argument I'm making.
Follow up with me about that. I've got quite a few names I got to fit into this one.
Who do I have to get out of the way to bump up the line?
Well, it's not important, it's not a competition. Really, it's I need you to sell the idea of your character a bit more, Like, do you want to be gold? Like, because a lot of golds are bad guys. Why wouldn't you want to be, I don't know, a violet?
Look at me. The AU. The AU.
Everyone wants to be gold.
Catch22 says M. Ow de Garrett.
There we go. There we go.
Oh, I love it. I love it. But
it's
in the name. It's in the name. All right. On that note, thank you so much for giving me another hour of your time. If you haven't yet, go over to the YouTube page. We've got our hour-long discussions on Red Rising and Golden Sun as well. We're going to be popping clips over on our TikTok if you're not following there, Maude's Book Club, and all our social medias. Pierce, where can people follow you, continue your journeys, sign up to any book stuff?
On Twitter or X, though I'm not often on there, but I give news on there at Pierce_Brown, or on Instagram at PierceBrownOfficial.
Have you got any more tours lined up, or is it just writing?
Not as of yet. I'm going to try to pop out book 7. I've got to give birth.
Oi, best of luck for that one. The book club did decide that they wanted to continue the series, so we will be doing the rest of them. So
fantastic.
Hopefully I can steal some more time from you.
I'll be back for the next one.
What else are you going to do, right? Write the damn book, actually.
Write the damn book and get beers with Maude. Duh.
Oh, I'd love a beer. What are you doing after this? No, I'm kidding. Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
We're out of here.
Meet us at Laurel Tavern. Bye.